afternoon, everybody, for another episode of our Black Leaders for Active Citizenship. I'm here with one of the co-founders of Gradidge Mahura, Mr. Craig Gradidge. He's gonna explain what they do. Craig, thanks for agreeing.
Slingsby,
for this interview, man.
Yeah, good to see you again. It's been many years.
Same.
And so Gradidge Mahura Investments, we a wealth management, budding financial services business. So our key service offering is wealth management services for individuals. So we do everything from estate planning, retirement planning, investment planning, and risk planning. For individuals, for families. We do that for corporates as well, where we set up employee benefit schemes for the staff of the business. We would help the owners of the business with corporate cash management to earn higher interest on their cash balances. We would set up business assurance agreements for the owners of the business. And then we would also do the short-term insurance. Any professional indemnity requirements, insurance of assets, etc.
Sure. So when we do this interview with Craig, obviously we go back. There's a Craig who started the company, but there's a Craig who grew up in KZN in Newlands East.
That's right.
Growing up in high school. So were you always clear growing up as one of the boys at home that this is the direction you wanted to take your life, career-wise?
I think as a youngster, I had an inkling that I would one day run my own business. And that was, growing up, life was fairly tough. So, born early 70s, kind of growing up in the 70s and 80s, the kind of environment that South Africa was in back then. And then I lost my dad at a very young age. So I was 5 years old. Life was quite tough. And, I had to grow up very quickly. So I often found myself, so I got my first job at the age of 9. I lied, said I was 10 years old because that was the minimum age to be a paper boy.
Okay.
So I got my first job as a paper boy, delivering papers in the neighborhood.
Oh, nice.
And then, so that was every day after school. And then in the holidays, we would go across to the Indian township next to us because they had all the mango trees there for some reason.
Okay, what's it called, the township?
Newlands West.
Okay.
Yeah, so very imaginative.
Okay.
So the east was for us colored people, and then the west was where they put all the Indian people. And in between was the road where the Ntuzuma bus took people to KwaMashu. So holidays mainly going to reappropriate mangoes and then go and sell it to the aunties in the neighborhood who would then make mango pickles. So that was kind of our thing, working in gardens, cleaning people's cars. So I was always out there trying to make money because, if I didn't, there was no spending money coming my way.
Yes, no, that's true.
So that's kind of where the work ethic sort of developed. And then ultimately getting into, I kind of knew I wanted to be in sort of finance, something finance related. My strengths were in mathematics and accounting. Found myself in the financial services industry. And typically in this industry, if you go and do your own thing, you would start in the financial planning, wealth management space.
That's true. So I understand you're a middle child at home, ne?
Yeah, I'm number 2 of 4 boys.
Four boys. Yeah. So you're not necessarily, because normally when there's 3 kids, there's a middle child syndrome.
Yes.
So for you didn't fit in that because you're not the first one, but you're somewhere in between.
Yes.
So growing up with these brothers, how would you put yourself if you look at their personalities with the other siblings?
Yeah, so it's a very different, it's amazing. You can have the same recipe and very different outcomes. My older brother, so I think he was a lot more attached to my dad. So my dad's passing affected him a lot more. And he is very, he's very good with his hands.
Oh, okay.
So he's not a. So myself and my younger brother, the brother after me, he runs a tax practice.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So he's a tax practitioner and he does people's books. And then the baby brother is actually from my stepdad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so quite different to the rest of us. So yeah, 4 boys, 4 very different personalities. My older brother, I think, struggled because the education system of the 70s and 80s was basically one long university entrance exam and process. So people with technical skill like himself got lost in the system.
No, that's true. No, that's true.
But my younger brother and I, being more mathematically inclined, the system kind of supported us.
Okay, no, that makes sense. So I first met you, obviously, when we stayed in the same res, Panato.
Panato, yes, that's right.
And at the time, I mean, I don't know now, it was a mixed res for both ladies and men sitting in there. And I remember this Saturday, I was coming from taking a shower in the bathroom and got a towel wrapped around me around about 10 in the morning. And this lady has got, a young lady has got her parents visiting. And as they see me sauntering from the bathroom, I could see the mother was just so angry to think that the daughter is staying in the same dorm or whatever
corridor. That's right.
And you look at what's happening in South Africa now, because I think you've got daughters, I've got daughters. The violence that's happening to say, would that still work if they're in the same mixed race? Because during our time, it's not even something we thought of.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's, as a parent, it's something I would think about a lot more deliberately. But I think knowing myself as an individual, would respect other people's privacy and all of that, and not kind of forceful by nature. It wasn't something I thought about at varsity. And when we were there weren't any issues.
No, definitely.
Related. There might have been 1 or 2 isolated ones, but I think today it's a very different
it's a different age,
dynamic, and certainly as a parent, one I would think long and hard about. Indeed.
Yeah, to look after it. So you graduated at Wits, and then where was your first job?
So I graduated at Wits, and then, as you know, if you get a bursary, you then have to go and pay your dues. So at that stage, I got a bursary from Price Forbes, who today known as Alexander Forbes. So different branding strategies that have played out over the years. And I worked there 2 years in the short-term insurance on the corporate side. Absolutely hated it because it had nothing to do with investments. Which is kind of where my passion was. And so once my 2 years was up, I then started looking around to see how I could get more onto the investment side. I tried to get into Alexander Forbes, which back then was more focused on investments and employee benefits, but without success. I think there were kind of Chinese walls between the businesses back then. So I started working at a company called Profile Media. They do the stock exchange handbook and the unit trust handbook. So it's more of a research company. And I was brought in to head up the unit trust handbook at that point. So it gave me a very good introduction into the unit trust industry. Particularly because it was just starting to ramp up at that point. So I think it had something like 2 billion assets under management back in 1998, and today it's approaching 3 trillion.
It's a big industry.
So it's so I was there like from the early days of the industry, and doing research, I got to know the industry quite well. And then after that, I needed a new challenge. I then went and worked at Fedshaw.
I remember Fedshaw,
so Fairshore Unit Trust. I dealt with them during my time at the Profile Media, and they said, "Hey, listen, if you ever want to leave, give us a call." So I did that, had an interview, and started working there on the business development side. And basically, I was given a region to go and grow and get more business for Fairshore. 6 months after that, I moved down to Cape Town to go more on the institutional side. And about a month after I moved down, Investec announced that they were buying Fairshore out. So I, well, once it's known in the market that the company you work for is being bought out, people don't really want to do business with you because they want that corporate activity to be finalized. Because then they know they don't want to be caught up through the administration of having to now sign across from Fairshore to Investec, and maybe they don't like what's coming and all of that. So then literally spent that November, December, January waiting for the details to emerge. And then the entire team got retrenched through that process. And then I got appointed by Old Mutual down in Cape Town, but sent back to Johannesburg. And given a region in the East Rand, Vaal Triangle, and Mpumalanga area. To that region was underperforming at the time, and I was asked to go and turn that region around. Which I managed to do within the first year. So I stayed there for about 4 years. Very good learning experience, very good training, very good exposure, and then having to compete with the likes of Alan Gray that was coming through Investec, that was Coronation, and still kind of getting past those challenges and overcoming the new sexy brands that were coming up. So it was a good challenge. I enjoyed it. And then I got bored. That was 2004. I moved within Old Mutual to the multi-management business. And that was down in Cape Town.
Oh, you went back to Cape Town,
It's a bit of a yo-yo. And then 6 months afterwards, the marketing manager had left, and they wanted somebody to come and head up the marketing side of the business. And because I had been there for 4 years, I'd done quite well on the business development side. They asked me to come and take on that role.
Oh, nice. So let's just recap then, just in terms of turning around that business, because they always say, if you look at the management styles of the people, and there's people you want to come in when the business is struggling to turn it around. There are people you need when the business is starting. There are people you need when the business is doing well, but you need to grow, and it's different personalities. So if you look at the levers and your personality, how far you had to dig to be able to turn around, what would you say were your strengths early even then that helped you to do that?
Yeah. So there it was a different situation in that I was acting more as a technical specialist as opposed to a manager. So I didn't have a team of people under me. So I was an investment specialist, and I had to go to all the advisors in those areas and get them to support us instead of other investment companies like Coronation, Investec, Alan Gray, for example. So what I discovered, so in the first kind of 3 to 6 months of just going, because it's a big area, it's just going and sitting with the managers in those regions and the advisors and understanding why we weren't getting our share of business. Or, and what we needed to do. And also getting to understand their business. So it was through that process that I realized that for us as Old Mutual to get business, one, we needed to be a lot more present.
Okay.
We hadn't been
Okay.
present, so we hadn't been top of mind. So when the advisors were placing business, they weren't thinking of us.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, if they thought of us, they didn't know which of our many funds would be most appropriate.
Okay.
So yeah, what I picked up was that there was a need for training and education on unit trust as a product and the market, and then also that there was a need for me to be present.
Okay.
As in, kind of when they have a client in front of them and they need to now invest this R1 million, the advisor goes, "Oh, sure, who do I call? Let me call Craig."
Craig, okay.
And not the guy from Investec.
Okay. But that differentiates, so what is it that differentiates? Because I've been in consulting as well, and a lot of the work you do is business development. And sometimes we talk about people who are extroverted and introverted, and you never know which personality thrives in selling and getting to the client. So what did you find worked for you? Because remember, Coronation and them were sexy and they were really aggressive in getting into the market. So probably if you look at your differentiate.
Yeah. So I'm generally more introverted, but I do have some kind of extroversion tendencies. So I played to my strength. My strength was more one-on-one as an introvert.
Okay.
And my strength was more technical.
Technical, okay.
So back in the early 2000s, most of the financial services companies would appoint salespeople.
Okay.
Whereas I was more of a technical person. I had a degree.
Okay.
And it wasn't common at that time for business development people to have degrees. All of that. But I just focused, today it's a lot more common. So I just focused on what was my strength. And again, it's the very foundation of any success is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was not married at the time, and my girlfriend, now my wife, was working in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So no kids. So what I would do is I would leave on a Monday morning and start in one area and then just go to the next area, sleep over Tuesday in another area, Wednesday. And then just kind of work my way around. So I'd normally start in Standerton, work my way around, end up on Friday afternoon in Middelburg, and then get back home. And then I'd do my admin on the weekend.
So obviously, I see that this gave you the advantages then in the business. So just backtracking a bit, you're talking about that you are introverted, but you've got a bit of extroversion. So when I was working in some audit firm, at some point, one of the managers who was on that job, when they gave me feedback, I think they said quiet but gets around. So if someone or people who know Craig very well were to describe you in one sentence, how would they describe you? Because I found that it stays through my life. That's always who I've been, that I do go for what I want in my quietness.
Yeah, so quiet until I get to know you.
And then I see the real
then once I understand who I'm dealing with, then I know how to interact. But so extroversion and introversion is more about how you are energized, as opposed to whether, so in big groups of people, after about an hour or two, I want to go sleep. I want to go sit in a corner by myself because I'm drained. I've got no energy.
No, it does that.
So it's understanding that and then just kind of working with that understanding. So if I'm going to be in a big group of people, I need to front load any networking.
That's true. Okay.
Because 2 hours from now, I'm done. Whereas if you're an extrovert, you got the whole night.
No, that's true. So it brings us to the point then, in Old Mutual, you decided to, at some point, to leave. Just take us through on the decision to leave and how it came about and the partnering.
Yeah, so in the 4 years that I was in that role, I ended the year top consultant in the country in all 4 years.
Nice.
And in the fourth year, I met my target kind of in July. And there were still 5 months left.
Okay.
So the challenge had disappeared.
Okay.
And I enjoyed the challenge side of it. So So, the first year getting the understanding the problem and then start working through it. And there was a bit of luck because one or two of the advisors in my area had gotten big deals and that came through to us. So luck is always part of it. But then doing it in the second year and the third year, and then, like I said, in the fourth year, you kind of refine your approach.
Yes.
There were certain things I did in years 2 and 3 that really helped. So when the challenge had disappeared, then I started looking around. So, well, what's the next challenge?
Yeah.
I'm not going to find it there in the team that I was in, and the multi-management business, also in investments, a very different challenge. But as I say, I wasn't there long enough before they came and said, well, come and look at the marketing manager role. So yeah, it was just kind of wanting to have a decent challenge and being energized by overcoming a challenging situation.
Okay. So the decision then, when did you start the business? After the 4 years?
It was GM Investments. So I then, after some being in the marketing role, there was some corporate restructuring, and Old Mutual decided to move its head office to Johannesburg, and decided to move all the key relationship people, client relationship staff to Johannesburg as well. So I got moved back to Joburg in 2007, and then sat in the office for 6 months with some fairly serious IT issues. So in that move, I was always, my laptop was always in for servicing, or my emails were not working, and eventually I just thought, well, let me go and look outside and see what other challenges there were in the industry. I landed up at Net Group Investments as head of key accounts, and got into a team where I absolutely hated the work environment, and there were some personality issues. So kind of 2 months into that role, I bumped into Kagisha. So Kagisha and I had worked together at Old Mutual in the unit trust business, and he had left. He had gone to Coronation, but we sort of stayed in touch, through industry. And when I moved to Net Group Investments, he moved back to Old Mutual. So I was down in Cape Town at Old Mutual on business, and I bumped into Kagisha by chance. And we then had a discussion about what we were seeing. And we were both seeing that the industry was changing. Well, not the industry, the economy was changing. So through your Black economic empowerment laws that were still fairly young at that point, you were seeing more and more Black professionals coming into the market. So more and more coming through university. But what we were seeing in our industry, in the financial services side, was that it was still fairly white dominated, and specifically on the financial planning side. So we had both read a statistic earlier that year that the average financial advisor in South Africa was 52 years old, white, male, and Afrikaans speaking. So that was where the advice was coming from, but the market was young, Black, and emerging professionals. So the client base and the kind of where the advice was coming from, there was a bit of a mismatch. And where we were seeing that was in some of the public BEE deals that were being offered. So you had Putumanati come to the market the year before, Valcom Yazani, Tembeka Capital, all of these. And lots of our friends were not taking the opportunities. Lots of people we knew were like, I read about it, but my advisor told me it was risky. And at that time, there was MTN Asonge that had just, they closed that deal. And that morning, I read the results of the deal in the newspaper, in the Business Day. And Kagiso had read that same article earlier. So we were talking about that. And he and I had both applied for shares to the maximum. But he and I had known lots of people who hadn't applied because the advisor said, no, it's too risky.
Too risky, yeah.
So that conversation is ultimately, that was in September 2007. And so, because I think Kagiso and I were seeing the same thing at a macro level. So we were seeing the market dynamic and we were seeing what was coming. And there was a bit of a mismatch. And he and I both had white Afrikaans-speaking advisors at the time. So we then decided, let's consider. He was unhappy at Old Mutual, I was unhappy at Net Group. And we were facing similar issues, You're kind of the only black professional in the room on many occasions. And so it's just some of the challenges that we had to deal with back then. You don't have those challenges as much these days.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, that's true. And then that's how you guys came then to say, let's start this.
Yeah, and literally 3 months later, he packed his bags in Cape Town and came to stay by me.
Oh, okay.
In Johannesburg. And so he left his job at Old Mutual, went under supervision. I was waiting for my sign-on bonus.
What's going under supervision?
So before you get your license,
okay.
You've got to be under supervision for a minimum period, and then you can apply for your license.
Okay.
I was waiting for my sign-on bonus because I got a sign-on bonus when I joined, and that was only going to be paid at the end of March.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, hold on. If I'm going on my own, I need that money.
Yeah, definitely.
So I checked out. I started the MBA as well that year at UCT. So I had enough to keep me busy. And then at the end of March, got my bonus and resigned. And then we spent the next 6 months applying for kind of starting up the business, getting it incorporated, getting the bank accounts, doing the business planning.
Okay.
He was finishing his supervision period, so we could apply for our license, finding office space, the whole lot, just everything that goes with starting up a business.
Yes.
And so I was doing the MBA at the time, and he was focusing on getting through supervision.
Okay.
So we got our license on the 14th of October 2008, which was smack bang in the middle of the global financial crisis.
Yes.
So the market was down 7%. The JSE was down 7% that day. It's still a top 10 down movement of the JSE.
Wow.
And I look at the JSE going down, and I look at the email from back then it was the Financial Services Board, saying, congratulations, you've got your license.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we started the business. And for the next year, managed to underperform our worst case scenario.
Okay.
By virtue of the fact that we started at exactly the wrong time for a financial services business.
Okay. So let's come there then. So I was reading in LinkedIn article, someone was saying is when you start your own business, you need to think that obviously you are getting these sign-on bonuses and a huge salary. And some people go there with an expectation that you're going to surpass your salary. Maybe you're unhappy that you're working for the shareholder who's earning all this dividend. So I don't know what your views in terms of starting your own business, or sometimes you don't have enough capital in getting into this. So when is the best time in your mind to start your business? And what should we have in mind in terms of salary progressions, in terms of what we're going to pay ourselves or dividends, and just the standard of living that you're going to carry across?
Yeah, so that's a very difficult question to answer, because there's no one answer for that question. Because there are so many variables that impact it. So the type of business you start, so our business, this is a long build-up process, and then at some point in the future, you start to get returns to scale and profitability comes through. Whereas in like the construction business, for example, on day one, you can get a 50 million rand project.
Okay, that's right.
You see. So in that type of business, your income's very lumpy.
Maybe let's talk about your similar type of business.
But in our business, you got a long runway where you got to build up your annuity base, you got to build up your client base, you got to build your brand, and you've got to demonstrate an ability to give advice, and then it takes time for clients to see the value of that advice, and they can see that it's good advice and it's the right advice. And then you start getting referred, and then you start building clients.
Okay.
And so through the planning, we had an idea that it would take us kind of 4 to 5 years before we could get back to our earnings in 2008.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have 4 to 5 years of inflation. So you're not quite back at the same place.
Yes,
but
that's right. That's right.
in nominal terms, you are. But what had happened is because we started in the middle of a financial crisis, it took a bit longer.
Okay.
But to be an entrepreneur, what you need to do, you got to ready yourself.
Yes.
So we had both kind of got our balance sheets in order. We had savings, we had funds that we could access to fill the gap. And then we also downscaled our lifestyle.
Oh yeah. No, I remember.
You know.
So so when Craig was starting in this, I think we met by chance after a long time.
That's right.
You said you wanted to get rid of your SUV and downscale. And at that time, my family was growing and my wife was looking for a car. And one thing that impressed me with you was that at the time, I said, I think we met maybe, let's say October, and I said, only in March next year can we afford the car. Can you keep it for us? And then I went quiet for a while. And then in March, early in March, closer to the date, I came to your office and you said, you won't believe it. Just this morning, someone came to the office and I thought Slingsby hasn't come through, and this person deposited 20,000 more than what we had agreed to sell it to you. But you said, promise is a promise. I'm taking back the money and we'll still stick to the deal. And I must say, for me, that's the one thing that I thought, wow, this guy has got integrity, because I put myself in that position to say 20,000 more in my bank account, would I have dealt with it differently? And that impressed me. And I think, thank you for that. I suppose my wife Kulisa thanks you more for that.
Yeah, because she had the car for many years.
Yeah, she had the car for many years and still kept the same brand when she upgraded.
That's right. So I mean, downgrading was a big part of it. It was easier for me because I still wasn't married by that point, and I still didn't have children.
Yeah.
And you know, when you come from not having much, you know, to having to scale back your lifestyle. I was living in Sandton, so I couldn't plead poverty. You know, I was renting, but you know, I had hot water, I had security, the brick structure, it kept us warm in winter. You know, so there wasn't much that, you know, I mustn't carry on as if like I went below the line.
No, I understand that.
But it was a downscale. And that's a big part of it.
That's a big part of it.
Because now your new earnings level and your new standard of living have to somewhat correlate.
Yes.
But if I maintain the standard of living
and
at that, then we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Much,
because I would have had to go back to corporate.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So those were some of the difficult decisions that we took. And then eventually you kind of surpass where you were and you get the benefits of running your own business.
Yes. So let's talk about the partnership. So a lot of businesses, whether it's black owned or white owned, the partnerships, sometimes they don't last through. And sometimes it's egos, personalities, or like we were talking earlier on, it's the wives who think your wife could be sitting there thinking, Craig, Kahisho on the other side is having a nice life. We are struggling here. Why is it not this? So if you take us through the process that maybe you didn't do those then to say, is Gradidge the due diligence, the Gradidge is the right partner? Because that's another marriage you're going into for life, probably. Is it the right person? And how have you managed the differences in between to say, here's this person's role, here's my role, how do we give each other space? And you're going to fight, it's natural. But how do you manage the fight that it doesn't go? You understand that it's about the business, it's not beyond. How has it been?
Yeah, so I think, firstly, having worked with Gradidge, it made it a little bit easier, but it's never an easy decision. So I knew his work and his capability and just him as a person. When we had that discussion in 2007, the vision was the same.
Yeah.
We were seeing the same things.
Yes.
It wasn't obvious to everybody what we were seeing, but we were seeing the same things, and we had diagnosed it in a fairly similar way. And so it became evident to me that, it's very difficult being in a partnership, but it's even more difficult if one partner is seeing this and another partner is seeing that. Then you're going in very different directions. So we had a sense of what we needed to do. And then we had different skill sets. So Gradidge was strong on the marketing side, but also strong on the management side. I was strong on the business development side. And I developed a skill for writing.
Oh, nice.
So as with your choice of a marriage partner, you need to think carefully about the individual and whether the marriage would last.
Yeah.
And whether it would be a good marriage. So I had no doubt that he was doing the same. So he was looking at me and saying, "Can I throw my economic lot in with this clown?" And I was looking at him and saying, "Can I, is this the guy that I can trust and that I can build a business with?" And it helped that we had the same value systems, we had the same vision, we both had very strong work ethic, and we kind of, the business that we had envisioned was quite similar. And that we had different skills. We brought different things to the party. So we initially, there was no real discussion about CEO and that, because when you 3 people in a business and you've got very little, there's no business.
Yes.
Why are you having arguments about CEOs? What your focus must be on building a business.
Yes.
And then once you've got a business, then you start doing things like formalizing roles, getting policies in place, and things like that. But first and foremost, build a business.
Yeah, that's right.
Some people build the illusion of a business. The website's fantastic. It competes with other big businesses' websites in capability, and it costs a fat fortune. But there's nothing behind it.
Right,
So our approach was different. Our website was essentially a brochure, contact details of services, and it cost us 2,500 rand. Okay. Once we had a business, we could then start saying, well, who's the CEO?
Okay.
Who does business development? And in our business, Gradidge is our CEO.
How did you guys come to that? Was it an easy one?
It was an easy one. So, firstly, I'm not terribly hung up on titles. But in terms of our strengths and capabilities, Gradidge is the more suitable of the two of us. But it's one thing co-founding a business. It's something entirely different running the business.
Yeah, that's right.
So the fact that I started the business doesn't entitle me to any senior role in the business.
Yes.
My skills are on the business development side. So for the business to succeed, I need to do that. The growth of our business will be determined by the strength of our strategy and the execution. And that's Kagisho's responsibility.
Okay.
But if we're both fighting about that and nobody's bringing in business,
No, that's true.
then we're squabbling over nothing.
No, that's true.
And we'll both be looking for jobs.
No, that's true. That's true.
So I think that having that maturity, because even though I'm a co-founder of the business, I'm not even the head of sales. There's somebody else who's head of sales.
Okay.
And I'm in that team.
Okay, that's interesting.
But again, it frees me up to do business development. And that person is a much stronger manager of a sales team than I am.
Don't they struggle to manage you in that, even if it's a dotted line that you have reporting to him in terms of him or her, in terms of sales, that person, head of sales?
Well, there's not much management needed for myself, for Virat, for Kagisho, because Kagisho still also operates as an advisor.
Okay.
Even though he does less of it, he does more of the CEO role, which is why he's not here today. So roles and responsibilities are very important. If you play to your strengths, you go a lot further than if you're worried about who's the CEO and
that's true. And that's important. Yeah.
Exactly. For me, it's important that the business succeeds. And if it means that I must wash floors and welcome people in because I do that better than anybody else, then so be it. But if I'm going to get caught up on titles, then I'm actually more suited for the corporate world.
Yeah, that's true.
Than for my own business.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, but we've had disagreements. So Kagisho and I have had some proper disagreements. But in reading about other businesses and other partnerships, I've come to realize that it's a feature of a partnership. The successful partners know how to disagree.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go to.
And some, there are swearing matches. And because there's a lot on the line, and you're passionate, but the important thing is that once you decide, that you all get behind that decision.
Okay, so that's true.
And it doesn't become his decision or my decision or whatever the case is. So we argue. It's part of the game. We're adults. I'm not going to take it personally that maybe I lost the last argument or he lost the one before that or whatever the case is. What's best for the business?
Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, I know I used to think I was relatively tall until we were talking to my son and he likes Lionel Messi.
Yes.
And he says, you know what, Lionel Messi is actually taller than you. You think because he plays with taller players, and we talked about my height and I found out that. So they say sometimes shorter men like me, they tend to be argumentative, and Kagisho is shorter than me. So I don't know if we have those Napoleon tendencies. I hope he doesn't get angry with me for saying that. So you deal with those different personalities.
Yeah.
You guys understand each other quite well, and that's what has helped in terms of that.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand the person, and it's important not to take things personally when it comes to the business.
When it comes to the business,
But ultimately, the success of the business is that we take the best decisions for the business.
And if you look at your hiring, the kind of people you guys have had, by now, I mean, you've got a big stake in the business. You need to understand who's going to make it or not. Have you got it? Obviously, you won't get it to a T, but have you sort of gotten to understand now how the process flows if you want to get people in here?
Yeah, hiring is an important, and it's something we've refined over the years. So we're very specific about the types of advisors we bring into the business. So people who are technically strong and will give good advice, as opposed to people who are salespeople and may just sell products that pay good commission. So in 2001, we interviewed 7 people. We appointed 1 person.
Were you looking for many then?
We would have appointed all 7 if all 7 had met the criteria. So we would interview them. They would get through the interview process. And then we give them the case study. And basically, the case study would kind of show up the lack of technical skill. And so that would mean that we would have spent 7 hours interviewing people, only doing 3 case studies and then appointing 1.
Okay.
So what we did is we flipped it. We then, when people sent in their CVs, we would send them the case study.
Case study first, okay.
And so in 2022, we did fewer interviews.
Okay, because case study had sifted through.
Because the case study was sifting people.
Okay.
So now we were only interviewing people who took the time to actually send the case study back and who sent case studies of an acceptable level.
Okay.
So that saved us a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it still didn't solve our challenge of finding candidates. So we've got several firms looking for candidates for us.
Oh, okay.
And we get the CVs, we send the case studies, and suddenly people are very happy at their jobs.
So they understand. Okay. Okay. Once they see the case study.
Once they see the case study, then they go, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not.
How would you describe the work culture quickly in here?
So it's a culture of ongoing learning.
Ongoing learning. Okay.
So for a small business, I mean, we're 34 staff now. In 2017, we were 20 staff. In that year, we had 18 people achieve qualifications and certificates.
Nice.
1 degree, I think, was in there. So it's something we spend a lot of, because it's intellectual capital that we effectively applying for our clients. So the people are the machines. So we need to make sure that they are up to date, that they have the right skill, and that they will give good advice.
Okay.
So we spend a lot of time on technical. And through that, 2018 we won Wealth Manager of the Year.
Nice.
2021 we won Professional Practice of the Year in our industry.
Well done. No, well done.
So it's paid off.
If we talk about that, the wins, where are you now as a business as well? Because you've been around for 15 years in terms of the growth and what you manage. I don't know the parameters that are used to measure good business. Where you're sitting.
So the key metrics in our industry, so for a wealth management business, is your assets under management. So we currently manage just over 2.6 billion of client money.
This is rands, dollars,
rands,
just thinking,
yeah, dollars would be nice. 200 billion Zim dollars maybe, but the US dollars is a lot less. We've got about 2,300 clients. Those are individuals. We've got about 40 corporates.
Nice.
On the asset management side, we manage about 800 million of client money in the asset management business. On the short-term insurance side, it's the annual premium income is the key metric there. And there we're approaching 40 million per annum.
Nice.
So we are pretty much at scale for all our businesses. On the fiduciary services side, we manage about 30, 40 trusts. We've set up some of the trusts. We've got about 300 wills where we are appointed as executors. So the business has grown with 34 staff across all the businesses. And we have offices in Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg.
And 2030, where do you see the business being?
Yeah, so interestingly, we set 10-year targets. We work on 10-year planning cycles. So our strategic objective in 2030 is we need to have 10 billion assets under management. We need to have offices in Durban, Cape Town, Pretoria, Johannesburg, and Port Elizabeth.
Where's Port Elizabeth?
Gqeberha.
Oh, okay.
That's your neighborhood, your part of the world. So Gqeberha, I think it was still PE when we put that slide together. And then Tshwane, Johannesburg and Cape Town.
Okay.
And I think we were looking at 100 million API for the short-term insurance business and 3 billion under management in the asset management business. So that's the 2030 strategy that we're working towards. So every year when we meet, our planning is around where we are relative to the target, the 2030 target, and what we need to achieve in the next year to get us closer to that target. Yeah.
So the guys from Secure Capital, they talk about crucible moments that take one to certain positions in life. Have you got any notable crucible moments for you? I mean, I'll come as well. I saw recently that you ran your first comrades this year, and I know it's an addictive thing. So maybe can you talk about crucible moments and how you got even to the decision that you wanted to run a comrades? Because I remember one of your events in your company was a braai, and we're all eating nicely and merry. I couldn't even imagine you running a comrades, and now you've done a comrades, whatever.
Yeah. So that was interesting. So it was in 2018. My daughter was in grade 1, and they were discussing in class the Comrades Marathon, which was happening a week later. And it had got her interest because they were running from Pietermaritzburg to Durban. And her father grew up in Durban.
Oh, yeah.
So she comes home and we're having dinner that night. And she says, Daddy, that race from Maritzburg to Durban, have you ever run that race? So I said, no, I've never run that race. She says, well, 4 of the dads in my class are running that race next week. Can you run it too? Because she wants to now go back and tell the teacher that her father's also running. I said, no, but Hannah, I can't do that now. It's too late. She says, oh, okay, why? So I said, no, you've got to qualify and, you've got to run a marathon, etc. So she's like, so can you run it next year? I said, no, I won't be ready next year, but give me 3 years. She says, okay, I'm giving you 3 years. Then you can, you must run the comrades. So I said, okay, deal. And my wife was sitting and she's like, who's the adult in this conversation? How do you just commit to running the comrades? Because some of her dad's, classmates' dads are running. But I think it was more, a couple of things. Growing up in Durban, comrades was part of our life. So at the back of my mind, I'd always wanted to. In fact, I tried to qualify in 2000.
Okay.
But I got shin splints and I didn't make it past my first 10K. And I'd also been to the doctor a few months earlier, and my vitals and my statistics, and as you said at the braai, I was not looking in any kind of shape to run any kind of distance. So I knew I needed to get my health back in order. And I enjoyed running. So, and then obviously we didn't see COVID coming. So 3 years later was 2021. There wasn't a Comrades in 2021.
Yes, I remember.
And then I didn't qualify in 2022. And so, qualified this year.
Wow.
But I think the one lesson I walked away from with the whole Comrades experience was that if you want to live a life of meaning, you must do hard things. It's only overcoming very difficult challenges that you actually end up living a life of meaning.
That's true.
And where I saw that was, like, firstly, my screen time on my phone dropped quite dramatically in the months leading up to Comrades.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because you're too tired from the training.
Yes.
And because you focus on the one thing, kind of sitting on Twitter and Facebook and whatever other social media and WhatsApp and all of that, it takes a back seat. So you have less time for meaningless stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Because all these hard things that you're going to do, building a business, writing a book, running a marathon, climbing Kilimanjaro, all of these things, they're very difficult. But they're very meaningful.
No, that's right.
And so that was the enduring lesson I got out of that. I've entered to run the up run, so I can do back to back. I can say I've done one down and one up. Then I'm done.
Have you done the qualifier already?
No, the qualifier is end of Jan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, after the typical period. Yeah.
Yes.
So on the shares, I need to ask this. So, Craig, I mean, I can't sit with you and not ask about shares. And I'm not asking for you to give us insight or whatever. But there is a guy I saw in the paper who put his top 10 shares, I think it's a Shapiro guy, to buy, and he put his neck on the block. I don't know if you want to do that, but I'll leave it to you. But I remember at some point we met and you were telling me that your wife is 13 months pregnant. And I'm thinking, this guy, where does he get 13 months? Because he got a crystal ball. Lo and behold, within 13 months, your wife was pregnant. So I don't know if you can see these things. Same with shares. But just talk about the difference between clicks and the Dis-Chem shares, why they're trading so far apart, and maybe what we should look out for as amateur investors.
Yeah, so look, I mean, Clicks and Dis-Chem, very similar businesses, but Clicks obviously had been around a lot longer. They're at very different stages in their sort of business cycles and how long they've been around. So Clicks certainly a lot more entrenched, especially with your property owners.
Okay.
And also very different shareholding structures. So the fact that Clicks is trading at almost 300 a share and Dis-Chem is trading at about 28 Rand a share, that doesn't mean that Clicks is 10 times bigger than Dis-Chem. That would only be the case if they both had the same number of shares in issue, and they don't. But Clicks is a higher rated business, as in the market pays more for every 1 Rand of profit. But Dis-Chem certainly has good growth prospects. So because they're a lot smaller, growth opportunities have a bigger impact. Okay. So, and then also they've had various challenges. Dis-Chem with that memo a few months ago around hiring more black managers into the business. So these are uniquely South African challenges, and there was a response from their client base. But also just kind of the level of growth that does impact on profitability. But it could mean that down the line, when they're not having to reinvest in growth, there'll be more cash coming out of the business. I think they're both good quality businesses. The pharmaceutical industry is consolidating. It's quite, there's lots and lots of small pharmacies here and there. So there's scope for consolidation.
Do you want to put your neck on the block in terms of top 5 shares that we should look into?
Stock pick is not what we do. We're more on the asset allocation side. But if I were to choose 5 shares, if I think of my portfolio, some of the stocks I'm holding that I like, I think for the brave investor, Pick n Pay could be a good turnaround opportunity. There's been a change in management recently. Sasol's looking interesting. Got some serious challenges. But the BE share is trading on a historical dividend yield of 13%. That's an equity-like return. Some other companies, I do like Dis-Chem. I do have Dis-Chem in